Hello peeps, Dee here. Welcome to my channel, welcome to my studio, welcome to this little tutorial. Look, I got flowers. Yeah, well, I bought this one. It's actually a pen. I liked it so much, we're gonna make our own. Pens. Flower pens. Only ours are also toys. So let's make our pens. Time to start. All right, so what do we need to make our pens? Well, first of all, we need a pen. Now this is just common as dirt, a big round stick. They're very cheap. What you want to make sure of is that you get the kind that flexes. When you do this, see how it flexes like that? What you don't want is clear, hard plastic, that really brittle plastic, because that's the stuff that'll melt in the oven. It will not survive. So make sure you get something like a big round stick. I used these a long time ago, and they used to be opaque white. Now they're sort of translucent gray. Okay, so you're going to need this. You're also going to need, if you're going to make a flower and you want to make a green stem, you're going to need 2 shades of green, because we're going to skinner blend. Now what you see here is just my green box. These are just the bits and pieces and leftovers from other things I've done. And I just stashed them in one of these translucent, well, this is a plain box. Once again, you can store your clay in boxes like this. You want to make sure that the container itself is made from something that is flexible like this. Once again, stay away from that clear, hard plastic, because your clay will melt into it. So you're going to need a couple shades of green. You're also going to need flower colors, whatever color you want, okay? Now this is a box of all of my little splats, because I'm not using a traditional flower, I'm using a splat. So you can either free cut your splat, or if you followed along with other classes, you'll know that I make these scrap clay templates that can be used over and over again. I keep them whenever I need a splat like this. I've already got it, and it makes life so much simpler. So I will include in this class the instructions for how we make our scrap clay templates. If you've seen it from another class, you guys know the drill. You just speed on through it, just pass it up. Anyway, you're going to need either splats that you have, or you're going to make a splat, or you could go with a more conventional kind of flower shape. Personally, I like the splats. And also, instead of using a conventional shaped leaf, I just used a different shaped splat that I had made in green. So you're also going to need some memory wire, and this kind of necklace memory wire is great, you know, the thin kind. This is so old. I've had it since I lived in Chicago, and that's been 25 years ago. Anyway, some kind of memory wire like this. And you're also going to need just a little bit, not much, but of hollow rubber or synthetic rubber cord that will go over the memory wire. Yeah, that's right. You're also going to need at the end a way of securing the top. Once I put this together, I don't put it back in the oven. So I use 2-part epoxy clay. That's what this is. It's not polymer clay, but it's a 2-part epoxy clay. You mix equal parts up, form a ball, push it on, and let it air dry, and you're done. Okay, so those are the things we're gonna need. So let's get started. So my clay's been rolled through setting number 6, very thin. And then I pressed it to a clean tile, and you want to push all the air out. You don't want any air between the clay and the tile. Now you're going to start drawing. Yeah, you're just going to draw with your needle. So let's make a spiral quickly. Now, one thing about the clay, I did soften it quite a bit. I used my conditioning bar to soften it. And one of the nice things is that the conditioning bar not only softens it, it makes it sticky. So this sheet is really stuck to my tile. So I just drew a spiral. Okay, so let's make a boomerang. I'm just cutting, or not cut, well, I'm actually drawing and cutting at the same time. I am. Okay. Something like that. I don't know exactly what that is, but it's okay. Now I'm going to make a splat. I love splats. Love them. Like so, a splat. Let's go a little bit deeper in here, because just a little bit. So, you can make adjustments to the shape, like so. What should we do now? Don't know if I'll use these, but hey, why not? Why not? Looks kind of like a dog. Just a little bit like a doggy. What do you think? A little kind of club shape, cloud shape. Okay, so let's make something that does look like. Okay, quite easy to do. Now the hard thing might be getting this clay up. No, not too bad. So you're just going to remove this clay, and then we're just going to cure all these cutout shapes. Yeah, you know what? I find this much easier than drawing on paper and going through all that razzmatazz, okay? So let's pop these in the oven, then I will be back. Okay, peeps, so this is not the same one, but hey, it doesn't matter, because this is what you're gonna do to the one I just cut. Okay, see all these? They're stuck. You wanna leave them on the tile. Now, these are cold, and what I'm gonna do, because it's easier now when they're stuck on the tile, I'm gonna sand the surface. Much easier. And what this does, it kind of knocks off any of these extra little bits of clay that might be hanging on. Okay, doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just trying to knock them off. Now, the advantage of using these clay templates, they're very durable. They're clay. Much more durable than paper, certainly. And I'm going to be making some earrings. So I want to be able to cut both sides, so I do mirror images. I highly recommend mirror imaging when you're doing earrings. It just looks so much better, right? Doesn't take any more effort when you work like this either. All right, so that's enough sanding. That's fine. So let's just take them off. Take them off. I sound like Julia Child. Oh, yeah. Okay, so there you go. Now, the edges. The edges should not be too rough. Mine are not. That sanding on the surface really knocked off a lot of those irregular, jagged little pieces that might have been there. Now, that is kind of sticking out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this guy and just cut it off. These are fine. Okay, how are you? Oh, little jagged piece there. Come on, get up. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with these. These are fine. They're ready to be used. Now, the back side is flat and shiny, so you might want to just sand them just a bit. I have my Auburnet. Oh, by the way, this is P180 Auburnet. So you can just it's hard because it's so thin, but just do your best, maybe holding like this, and then just taking the sandpaper like so. If necessary, sand the edge. Looked like it was a little jagged, so, but just do one of those numbers. You just don't want it really shiny because then it'll really stick to the clay. Yeah, we want it to stick well enough to cut around, but we don't want it to stick so well that it's hard to get off the clay. Okay. And this just takes a few swipes, and that's all. Now I think I'll just use flat colors for this. I think flat color, not blends, will be fine. Of course, you can use Skinner blends if you happen to have them. I'm just going to gather up some flat colors. Let's just do some color blocking with our shapes. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, peeps, here we are. We need to make that Skinner blend. Now, this is an insert. I thought I would insert a Skinner blend, and that would be enough for you. But I'm telling you to use little bits of clay that you might have in a box, aren't I? Well, when you use, actually making a small Skinner blend is kind of different than making a large one. All right, so I thought I'd better just do this. Otherwise, you guys will be sitting there with like a great big sheet of Skinner blend, and like, well, what do I do now? Because you only need to wrap a pen, and it is only a certain length. So let me just quickly run this by you so that you don't get stuck. All right. And this is really for you folks who might be new to polymer clay. All right. And if you already know this and you think, I already know this, then please, by all means, just skip it and zoom past and get down to the part where you're putting clay on your pen blank. All right, so peeps, I always start, not always, but today, I'm going to take this, and you can see that it's not a lot of clay here, is it? It's not very much clay. But as I told you, you don't need a lot of clay. All right, more or less square, aren't they? So let's just start the same way. Corner to corner, like so. Put one on top of the other. Make two cuts that form a right angle. There's one, there's two, there's my right angle. Separate them. Put them back together, offsetting the corners, so that our blended sheet will feature both pure this color and pure that color. And that's why the corners are not meeting exactly. Cut the tabs off. And we're going to proceed by placing a two-color edge on the rollers, rolling through. Now I'm still on the thickest setting of my pasta machine. All right, so let me continue. Same color edge on same color edge. Fold on the rollers, roll through. And I'm just going to keep doing this until I don't have streaks and that stuff. Until I have a nicely blended sheet is what I'm trying to say. Okay. So let me do this and then I'll be back. But you can see it's starting to blend already. So just remember, every time, same color edge on same color edge, fold on the rollers and roll through. Okay, I'll be back. All right, this is my blend. You can see that the shape, of course, has changed because every time you fold a sheet of clay through and then roll it through the same thickness, it spreads this way, like that. Now, you're going to see in the scenes that follow that I started with a Skinner blend that was the same thickness as this, but quite a bit shorter. Quite a bit shorter. And, you know, the reason for that isn't important, but what is important is that it was quite a bit shorter. So yours may not start out like mine, which was very short. Might look more like this, okay? So whatever this shape is, you're going to try to match it up to the length of the barrel of your pen. Just remember that. That is your goal, okay? To make the distance from here to here the same as the distance. Oh, let me take this. I don't know why the caps are hard to get off. From here to here. All right, so that's our goal. So let's proceed. Okay, so here is the clay I'm going to use to cover the barrel of my pen. You can see my pen. Help me. That is so... Go on, get off. Oh, there we go. Just had to twist it a bit. But you can see, well, that pen is quite a bit longer. Not a problem. Not a problem. This is plenty of clay. First, we have to take the cartridge out. You're going to grab your pliers and give it a little twist and pull the ink out. Set that aside. You just do not want to bake the ink. Okay, so let's make this first as long as the pen. I'm going to reset my machine to setting number 2. I'm going to put this edge on the rollers and I'm going to roll through. Not quite long enough. Okay, let's go 3. Getting closer. Let's go 4. And let's see where we are. Now, it is still not long enough. Now, is that a problem? Is that an issue? I could probably make it thinner. I can make it thinner, as a matter of fact. I can make it, roll this through 5, and it will then be long enough. However, then it will be very, very thin. Do I want that thinness? Not really sure. I mean, I've been rolling most of my pens like these guys. I think this was through maybe a 4. Maybe this one looks thinner, and maybe this was 5. But I might as well show you, because if you get into this circumstance and situation, you're going to want to do something about it. So I'm just going to take this gold clay. I could use scrap clay if I wanted, but remember, you will see it at the end. So let's just use gold. Why not? A little bit of gold. It's going to be just fine. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to first make a piece that is the same length as my green, like so. And let me make it a little bit wider. So I'm going to put this edge on the rollers, and I'm rolling this through setting 5. So you see it's quite a bit thinner. Setting 5 is definitely thinner than setting 4. And let's take a look which side is better. This has that gold, so I'm just going to put this on top. Actually, let's just do this. Let me cut that away like so. Now put this on. Turn it over. Now I'm going to back this down to about a 2. And I'm going to place this edge on the rollers because I want to make it longer, right? I want this green to be longer. And let's see what we have. So it's just about there. Let's roll it through 3. Here we go. Here's 3. Okay, and that is good. That's good. It's a lot longer, but it's fine. All right. Setting 3 is fine for our pen, but I'm going to make it thinner than this by placing this edge on the rollers and rolling it through 4. See, we've already achieved the proper length this way. Now we're dealing with thinning the clay to the setting we want. Okay, so here we go. All right, now this is the thinness that I want. Okay, now okay, so I want that light limey green at this end. I'm just going to pull it over just a tad and then just secure this like so. Actually, I can go even farther. Let's align this end. Okay, here we go. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to hold it up in the air for just a moment. Then feed it down the length, like so. Like that. Okay, now let's just slowly roll it around the pen and work it and push it like so, kind of gradually. And I think that probably helps. Doesn't probably help, it definitely helps. Push any air pockets out. Like so. You can see I just made it. Okay. Now that up there is fine, but I've got to do a bit of trimming down here, don't I? It's just not exactly right. So I will do that. Now I've transferred the mark so I can sort of follow that mark and cut along the length like that. Hopefully that will help me a bit. Now when you get to the point where you are joining them, the goal is to have the two sides meeting exactly, isn't it? Not to have one overlapping the other. So if necessary, do a little bit more trimming. And then pull back one side. Try to tuck the gold down in so that the green is on top. Do you see what I'm doing there? I'm trying to make the two sides meet perfectly this way, not overlapping that way. And this is just a little more difficult because it's two color. Now, if I had just used all straight green, it wouldn't be such an issue because there would, any overlap would be green, not gold. See, so I'm just going to do a little bit of trimming away right here. Remove the excess and then do the same thing. I'm almost, folding it under. All the way to this end. Like so. Now I'm going to take my brass rod, do a little bit of rolling and a little bit of scraping like so to heal that join. All right, now this looks to be just a little bit short, so I'm just going to stretch it out so it's long enough to cover, and then try to compress this at the end because it's kind of flaring out. You can see. So just kind of try to compress it in like so. So you don't have any gapping or flaring. Okay. Now when you roll like this, make sure you don't push too hard, because if you push too hard, sometimes you actually push the clay away from the pen barrel. So lightly like so. Now you have a choice here if you want to add some texture. Texture hides a multitude of sins. So let's just texture by pushing, rotating the pen around, and pushing both sides at the same time, like so. Turn it. Okay. Now there very well may be air between the raw clay and the pen barrel. That's always a possibility, and you can't always see it. The problem is if you leave it and you cure it, the air heats up and it expands, right? Hot air expands. And when it gets cool, it doesn't contract all the way, and so you're going to have a bubble or a bulge. Don't really want that. Don't want that. So the way to avoid that is just to take a nice little needle and pierce along the barrel like so. These are not very big holes, so I don't think it's a problem seeing them. Tell you the truth, I don't often see them anyway. Okay, so now we've offered any possible air in there an escape route. It's going to find that hole and it's going to leave. All right, now inspect the tip end, and if you have any clay there like I do, just trim it away. I find the easiest way is to rotate the pen barrel into the blade, and there we go. Now we're ready. Now we are ready. We have to do one thing though. I'm just going to take a little bit of gold clay. Just a little ball. I'm going to drop it down in there. Just a little bit. Close it and then do my best to close it up. Not doing a very good job here, I'm afraid. Maybe that ball's too big. Cutting it in half and dropping it down there. And honestly, maybe I should have done that first, like taken the blank barrel and then added this little bit of clay at the end and then covered the whole thing. But I didn't. So we're just gonna have to live with it like this. I do have too much clay here though, so I'm going to cut. Still have an awful lot of clay there. Yeah, let's try this. I'm not too concerned about this end actually, because we're going to be putting our little flower over it. It's probably going to cover up quite a bit there. At least that's what I'm telling myself. Once again, the gold clay has complicated this process a little bit more, because I can't just take it and mush it, right? I can't just mush it up and have this green color, the solid, the lime green color. It's going to have some of that gold showing. So it gets a little more fussy, as you can see, because the sheet is 2 colors. You have to deal with possibly seeing that color underneath, which is another reason. I'd rather see, now if I see it, I'd rather see gold than scrap. Now look, there's an air bubble. See that? Yeah. So let me see if I can. This is just stuff that happens. It just happens. Cut it away. All right. Not too bad. In any case, it's going to have to do for now. Now we have to attach our flower, don't we? And what we're going to use for that is memory wire. So let me grab my memory wire and I'll be back. Okay, memory wire. Let's talk about it. This is memory wire I have had since I was in Chicago. That was in 1999, and I probably bought it years before then. So this is very old, but as you can see, it's just fine. This is necklace memory wire. Memory wire comes in necklace, bracelet, even ring memory wire. So whatever kind you have, not a problem, because it doesn't matter if it's a bracelet or ring, or that you can always straighten it. Okay, so here is a newer version I just bought because I had to know whether it was the right stuff for you guys for another project. It wasn't. It's the same as this. So now I have more of this with a better finish. This is also memory wire. It is quite thick. You can see how much thicker it is, all right? And I use this a lot. This is actually my preferred choker memory wire, but we're not going to use this either. We're going to use this one, the ancient memory wire that I got in Chicago. Okay, so I'm just going to cut a piece off, and if you haven't used memory wire before, what I want you to do is I want you to make sure that you always cut it with sturdy, serious wire cutters, not your jewelry wire cutters. You cut with your jewelry wire cutters, you will ruin them. You'll ruin them. How do I know? Just ask me. Okay, so as I said, you can straighten it. So let's just straighten it just a bit. So I'm just taking my pliers and just straightening like so. So you see it's quite easy to straighten. Now, if you don't have memory wire, you can use something like artistic wire. But just bear in mind that artistic wire is not very, it doesn't resist you at all. In other words, you take it and you bend it and it just immediately bends. It doesn't seem to have any strength or any, it doesn't hold any form. It adopts any form. So that it responds to any pressure. So, for instance, this little pen, if this were memory wire, I could bend this over and it would just immediately, the flower would be sticking out sideways. That's not what I want. I want this flower to always be sticking up straight. And that's why I use memory wire. Okay. Now, first thing I'm going to do to my memory wire is make a nice little bend, like so. Bending. Like that. And let's just try to close it a bit, because see how, and I could have used round nose. Round nose would have been probably a better thing to do. It's kind of hard. Keeps moving. Keeps moving. moving, moving, moving. It's okay. All right, so let me straighten that out a bit so that the loop is not hanging off to the right or left too far. Now I'm just going to take this. You know, it's probably a good idea to do this too. Take some poly paste. You can even use liquid clay. But this is going to help. I'm going to fill that eye up with paste and then send it right down into the center of that lime green and gold mass. But that's why I had to add the gold clay. Remember I had to do that? Well, because without it, there's nothing to stick this wire into. Okay, so now I think that that's fine. Let me just take my dual plex again, retexture, like so. If it's a little bit crooked, I don't honestly mind too much. And now this is going to be cured in my oven. Then I'll be back. Okay, peeps, look at this. Now this is my box of Splats. Yeah, I've used these for mobiles, and I've used them for picture frames, and I've strung them together to make necklaces, and they're just a lot of fun. I love them. So let's make this color, this like kind of berry color. And for our leaves, I'm just going to pick a green one. How about this? We'll use this as the leaf that goes underneath. Now maybe like so. Now the other ones I made, I had pierced kind of in the middle so that they spun. This one, maybe we'll put it more toward the end. Yeah. And I did get a request or a comment asking whether I had actually put up the splat patterns, but then, you know, I can do that. I can trace these out and make a sheet of splats for you guys. So just give me a little bit of time and I will definitely do that for you. That way you can have splats. Okay. So the first thing we have to do to these guys is, number one, okay, so because they're quite thin, I cure them a long time and I cure them very hot because I don't want them to break. No, not going to tell you they never break. That I'm not going to tell you because, honest to Pete, they do sometimes break. Okay. I have this. This is basically 1 1/2 millimeters. This is an IKEA trivet. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of put it lopsided. Maybe not exactly in the middle, like so. And this is one of those little drills. And all I do is that. And I have a nice little hole. Let's do the same thing here. I'm going to go to a rather thick part. I could go directly center, maybe not quite so centered. Maybe this is better. You see, I'm a little concerned because of the length of this. If it's hanging out too far, it might get a lot of abuse and it could crack. It would be sturdier if the piece were not textured. But it happens to be textured on both sides. And as much as I love the texture, you have to figure that all of this texture, when you push it into the clay, well, it's not uniformly thick anymore, is it? There are some parts that are going to be very, very thin because of the texture. Okay, so these two pieces will be the pieces we use for our next pen. So when the pen's ready, I'll be back. All right, peeps. So now it's time to put our leaf and our flower, our splat flower, on our memory wire. So let's just cut a length. Now this is 2 millimeter unicord. Actually, it's synthetic rubber, and it is hollow. So let's try to figure out how Let's try this. Let's see how the leaf looks if we do this. I know chances are you're going to be cutting a length and then sliding on and testing and seeing whether you like the way it looks. Maybe the neck is too long, maybe it's too short. Actually, look, see? My original piece has the leaf right there next to the pen. So let's follow this, but of course you don't have to do it that way. Let's put the hollow cord on and let's slide on the flower and see what we've got. So that's quite a long neck. I mean, it's a lot longer than my original pens, but there's no right or wrong. You can make it, you can have this hanging off at the end if you want. If you make this piece, the cord long enough, you can just have the flower boinking off the end. As a matter of fact, I think I would like to do that. Why not? Why not? That might be a little long. Da, 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 look at that. Yoink. Okay, so I do think that is just a tiny bit long, so I'm gonna cut a bit off, slide it on again, and let's see how we like this. Now, the reason why I'm looking at buzz, see how, can you see that, how it's slightly shiny? See, it's flashing. Well, that is the side that was against the tile when it was baked. This side is completely matte. This side is shiny. Now, there's no right or wrong here, just what you like. So I'm going to put the matte side up. Da, 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 da. I like that. I'm doing it also. I can bend it a bit if I want. Oops. Oopsie. But that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so how do we secure this thing? I'll be back. All right, so the first thing we have to do is this. I'm gonna have to cut and make a little loop. So I'm gonna leave about that much. It looks to be about 1/4 of an inch, like so. Now I'm going to take this guy, little round nose pliers, and I'm going to bend a loop. And I'm just going to keep bending it until it gets down there. Yeah, it's a little tight right now. Is that a problem? Not really, but I might as well loosen it a bit. It doesn't have to be that tight. All right, come here, you. See, the good thing about memory wire is that it holds its shape. The bad thing about it is it's not the easiest stuff to bend. I don't mind telling you, it is not, but it's not impossible. It's just not the easiest. Okay, so let's get it back up there. I think that's okay. Maybe I could straighten it out just a tad. Just like that. Okay, so what you want is you just want that little loop there. See? Okay. Now, to secure this, it is a little tight. It's not spinning. Okay. And it won't. This is probably going to be a more stationary flower. If there's a little more play there, that's actually better. But I want the loop inside of this 2-part epoxy clay. So I'm going to take my pliers. I'm going to try to open this up again a bit and tighten it. Make the loop a little smaller, just a bit. I just need, because I would like it to move. There, that's better. Now let's straighten this out, like so. Bring it back up, and let's see, is it, it's a little bit looser. It is. Now the other thing I can do, actually, if I don't want to keep messing with that, is just cut some of this cord away. So I've got a blade, and I'm just going to cut a piece and remove that bit. Just remove that piece that I just cut. Oops. It's getting wild in here. Come on, you can do it. Pull it back. Let's see if I can get in there and cut it. Do I have scissors? I do have some scissors, but I fear that they are a little bit big. I need some very tiny, fine kind of scissors. But let's see if I can just cut some of this away. And there, okay, so at least it's free now. It is free, so I'm going to take my blade, cut, and then remove it. Okay, there we go. Now it's looser. Like so. Okay, so now it's time to do 2-part epoxy. Here they are. So I use this Epoxy Sculpt Clay Part A and Part, oh, I switched them around. I hope I didn't. Oh, I switched the lids. Oh, well. You have to be a little more careful than I have been, evidently, because you do not want to start that chemical reaction. Okay. By that I mean when you mix these two together, you start the chemical reaction. That wasn't too bad. We're okay. Okay, so there are many different brands of this, I gather. I am not an experienced person with this particular material, so I just chose it because I wanted black and it looked fine. So now I'm going to fish out a portion of A. I have so much of it, I'm not going to try to mix little tiny bits. Okay, so there's a portion. Now I'm going to take my tool and I'm going to get anything off of it. If there's any of that part A on it, I've got to get it off. And actually, part B is the sticky part. This is the stickier part. And it sticks to the tool worse than A. So now the goal here is to get the same amount. And I suppose some people must weigh them, weigh the two parts. I just eyeball it. So that to me looks like equal parts. From what I gather, it's actually pretty forgiving. All right, so all you're going to do is take the two parts and start mixing them together. Your fingers may get... yeah, that happens. Yep. But I wanted black. Okay. Now, I think you have about 15 minutes working time after you completely mix the two parts together. And it takes about 24 hours for this to cure, completely harden. But I prefer doing this. In this case, I could, of course, put a wad of black polymer clay over that metal loop, the memory wire loop. But if I do that, what do I have to do? I have to cure it again. And the act of curing again is probably going to distort and warp these thin pieces, these pieces. So I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. All right, so let's say that that is enough clay for the piece. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to roll a thin piece like this, and I'm going to try to clean my hands because this black will get all over that clay. I'm just going to try to push some right there into the eye. Okay, I'm just pushing some of this right there into the eye, like so. Let me pull this back. All right, now let's take this piece, roll it into a ball. I'm going to cut a little bit of a slit there, open it up just a bit. Then put it right there over the metal loop. And try to snug it on that loop, because that is what is holding the flower and the hollow cord and the leaf onto the pen. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. All right, now I'm just going to leave it like this and let it cure. Now what do I do with this leftover stuff? You know, I have a lot of these needles, like these big doll needles. And what I've been doing is any excess I just put on the end of my needles, and I think that that helps a bit. Okay, so let me go grab a needle from somewhere or something and slap this on it. Okay, back again. This is cured. It is the next day, so the 2-part epoxy ball is also cured. Everything's fine. Now, the neck is rather long. If you wanted to make it shorter, of course, you just bend the wire. Yeah, and it will stay. That's the beauty of memory wire. You can go like this, and it springs back. Now, one thing I have noticed is that the pens shrink up slightly when they're cured. So I'm going to cut off the end of the ink cartridge like so, and this is what will be put in. Now you also want to take a look at the end and make sure that this is the way you want it. If not, just sand it lightly, use your Abra net and just give it a couple swipes and you'll be fine. All right, let's put it back in. You just push it in like so, and we have a pen. We'll join the other pens. I have a virtual bouquet of pens, a literal bouquet of pens. Okay, so here are our 3 pens, ones I made in class and the ones from before. I think they're really cute. Now, I got a request for the Splats because obviously this is a splat. And so I am putting a link for the Splats in the description. So you follow that link, you can print it off, you can then use my shapes if you would like. Okay, so much for this. I try to do classes that aren't all jewelry. I've had requests about that. So I will continue to look for ways to use polymer clay that aren't wearables, aren't always wearables. It's so easy to fall into wearables and never get out. So anyway, that's today's class. Bouquet of pens, of pen flowers. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you make a lot of pens. And until we meet again, I'm Donna Kato.